What the hell are you looking at?
Whether you're sitting in your feels or you're stewing in it for real, take a deep breath, grab a cup and sit down. It's time for Coffee with Dubs.
You know, I think one of the hardest things people ever learn in life is understanding that boundaries are not the same thing as cruelty. Because a lot of us were raised to keep the peace at all costs. Stay quiet, don't escalate things, don't make people upset, don't say the awkward thing, and most certainly don't push back too hard. And while there's value in being understandable and emotionally flexible, there's also a dangerous side to that mindset if you're not careful. Because eventually you become so focused on preserving everybody else's comfort, you slowly abandon your own. And I think that happens more inside families than people realize. Because the truth is, most people never allow strangers to speak to them the same way that we sometimes allow our loved ones to. A stranger interrupts you repeatedly, you immediately notice it. Talks down to you, you probably create some distance. Raises their voice to you aggressively, you recognize that tension right away and you sever. But when it comes from family, or the people we love, or people we've known forever, we often excuse behavior we'd never emotionally tolerate from anyone else, and that gets complicated. Because relationships are emotional, history is emotional, communication gets messy and people misunderstand each other. Tone shifts, stressful conversations, your thoughts get distorted and suddenly the conversation that started off small becomes emotionally loaded and no one knows what's even happening anymore. And I know for me personally, one of the things I struggle with the most is being interrupted or talked down to. Not disagreement, that I can handle. But feeling dismissed, feeling misunderstood while somebody's already reacting emotionally before I even start to explain myself, that hits me deep. And if I'm being real, my instinct when somebody raises their voice at me is usually to raise it right back. Not because I want conflict, not because I enjoy confrontation, but because emotionally it feels like I'm defending myself in the moment. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that feeling. Because when emotions rise, the human brain shifts into protection mode fast. Your nervous system stops focusing on understanding and starts focusing on survival. You stop listening carefully and start preparing counterattacks emotionally. And that's where escalation begins. Not from evil people, not usually from hatred, just emotionally overwhelmed humans reacting instead of regulating. And honestly, that's why de-escalation matters so much, because the strongest person in an emotional situation isn't always the loudest one. Sometimes it's the person who notices the temperature rising and consciously decides this conversation doesn't need more gasoline. It's difficult though, especially when you feel hurt, especially when you feel disrespected, especially when your intentions are being misinterpreted in real time. Because emotionally, close relationships hit harder than random interactions ever will. A stranger online cannot hurt me the way somebody I love can accidentally hurt me during a heated moment. That's real. And I think part of maturity is learning how to separate the immediate emotion from the actual relationship underneath it. Because sometimes people are not attacking your value. Sometimes they're frustrated, exhausted. They're carrying stress that you can't see. And sometimes they're reacting emotionally before they fully process what you even meant. And that doesn't excuse toxic behavior. Boundaries still matter. Respect still matters. And understanding emotional context matters too. And I think that's the balance people struggle with. How do you protect your peace without becoming emotionally cold? How do you communicate honesty without creating destruction? How do you defend yourself without turning every disagreement into an emotional war? It's hard. And honestly, I don't think de-escalation means silence. I think it means slowing down enough to stop feeding the fire while emotions are still peaking. Sometimes de-escalation sounds like, hey, let's come back to this in a few minutes. Or, I'm not trying to fight with you right now. But sometimes you have to be blunt and simply recognize that if I keep reacting in this emotional state, I'm gonna hurt your feelings and that's gonna cause bigger problems for us. That awareness actually matters. Because temporary emotions create permanent consequences all the time. Families fracture over pride, relationships cool over repeated escalation, and people who genuinely love each other slowly stop feeling emotionally safe around one another because conversations keep turning into battles instead of communication. That's the heartbreaking part when you really think about it, because most people are not actually fighting to hurt each other. They're fighting to feel heard. And that's a tragedy underneath so many arguments. Everybody wants understanding, but heightened emotion makes understanding harder to reach, which is why emotional regulation becomes so important. Not weakness, not surrender, not letting people walk on you, regulation. knowing when to pause, knowing when to lower your voice instead of matching energy, and knowing when to protect your relationship matters more than winning the moment. And honestly, I'm still learning that too, because being emotionally self-aware does not automatically master emotional situations perfectly. It means you start noticing patterns faster. You notice when conversations start spiraling, and you notice when your nervous system starts shifting into defense mode. You'll start picking up on tone changes, and you even notice when your pain starts distinguishing itself as righteousness. And maybe that awareness is where healthier communication finally begins. Not perfection, just enough self-awareness to stop turning every emotional spark into a wildfire. And I'll be here brewing up another cup of sense tomorrow on Coffee with Dubs. I'll see you then.